Hey everyone, Ian Robert McKown here. I wanted to show you a quick demonstration today about how I get a bit more texture when I'm using a surface that's a bit too smooth. Sometimes texture can be a part of like an artistic element, a part of your composition, whether it's texturing or you get a bit of movement in a certain direction, or you get rough areas versus smooth areas. Today I'm going to be painting on gessobord. Gessobord is this really amazing product put out by Ampersand. It's masonite backed, nicely braced, really clean edges, but it's also incredibly smooth. They do put out an artboard, which I think has a bit more texture. I typically like a bit of tooth to my canvas and my board, so rather than just scuff this up a bit with some sandpaper, I'm going to go ahead and put a thin coat of gesso on here, but in a way that's going to make it a bit more textured. So what we're going to need is some gesso. You can get this in all different shapes and sizes, even tints. One good thing to remember is it's better to do several coats of gesso if you're starting with a raw canvas or raw board, instead of just one large one. But you should always thin it out and sand in between coats if you're going to be doing that. I'll be thinning it out today as well, probably like 1/4 water to 3/4 gesso. The other thing I'm going to need is this Wagner paint sprayer over here. It's obviously for indoor use, small hobby projects, maybe someone painting a small room, but it's really good for applying even coats of gesso without getting the brush strokes, which sometimes brush strokes are great, and sometimes I'll even apply it with my hand and get a lot of really cool effects that way, but I want something a bit smoother because I don't want the texture of the board to detract from the actual painting. So let's go outside and I'll show you how I do this. Okay, so we're outside and I went ahead and put down a piece of cloth just to spare my rocks from getting gessoed. First thing I'll usually do is take a little mouse sander and just kind of scuff it up real quick. I'm going to go ahead and show you that. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just, you want to give it a little bit of, you want to make sure that the gesso can actually stick to it a little bit. So. And I will typically use a pretty rough sandpaper for that. You know, you're not trying to smooth it out, you're trying to scuff it up. So I've already loaded my paint sprayer with some gesso. The cool thing about these sprayers is they come out a bit lumpy sometimes, and that's what I'm looking for. Went ahead and diluted it, and it's already just here in the reservoir. All I have to do is pull the trigger and it's going to go ahead and shoot out the gesso. Obviously these sprayers are meant to be when you're spraying a vertical surface, so I may tilt this a bit with my hand, but I'm going to go ahead and apply the gesso right now. Came out pretty fast there at the end, but as you can see, when you spray it, I don't know if you can catch on the camera, maybe I'll zoom in, but you can see there's clumps and then there's like a fine bit too. So I think it's going to give it more tooth in the end. I could go muck around with this, I could sand it, could do several coats. If I were spraying a panel or a canvas, I would use several coats of this sanding in between. The one thing to watch out for is to have some water handy, it gets pretty messy. As well as you want to clean out this sprayer really quickly once you get done using it, or the gesso will set up inside of it. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to paint on this a little bit later today once it dries, and we'll give it a go. Thanks.